Hello, and welcome to this week's Thrive Programme podcast. Today, I'm joined by Matt Christofaro from Rhode Island in America. Hello.
Hey, Lucy, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. I'm
Good.
excited for this topic.
I am excited as well. It's something that I think everybody needs to hear, and I think everybody probably has the unfortunate experience of experiencing.
Cool. So today we're talking panic attacks. Why panic attacks happen in all the places you wish they wouldn't.
Yep.
Brilliant one. Brilliant one. What is a panic attack then? Why do we get them? Where do they come from?
Yep. So, all right. So I think the first thing we need to understand is that we already have all the components in place to create our phobias, our fears, our panic disorder, our depression, OCD, whatever it may be. We have those things in place already. We create these phobias, these fears. They don't happen to us. That's something that I had to learn the hard way, but knowing that is what got me over it and thriving. So we all have the same capacity to worry, to think catastrophically in a perfectionistic way, whatever it may be, which contrary to what most people think, being a perfectionist is not a good thing. But it becomes a problem when these unhelpful ways of thinking are way too strong. That's what causes our problems. And the same goes for our beliefs, attitudes, biases. These are all things that can either be helpful or harmful. But when they come together and work against us, that's when we create the problems. So what ends up happening is we filter the experience that we're having in life through those ways of thinking, those attitudes, those biases. Those things are just copied from our parents, our community, our guardian, whoever it was that we were closest with when we were young. Same way that we copy accents. So people listening to this, maybe in Europe or in the UK where you are probably thinking, listen to this guy's accent. Like, what is he from Boston? Is he Italian? What the heck is it? I copied that way. And you'll see I'm talking with my hands too, trying not to knock the microphone over, but I am Italian, but same thing. I copied all this from my parents, just like I copied mom's ways of thinking. So it doesn't happen to you. The panic doesn't happen to you. You're going to hear me say that a couple of times, but it's not some external force that's just waiting to attack. Oh my God, is it going to get me today? All those pieces of the recipe, all those components are already in place when you're in the situation. The situation is just the situation. So a great example of this is if somebody's high up, fear of heights, whatever it may be. So let's say somebody's standing on a ledge or a balcony, whatever it may be. People would agree, if you're 100 feet up, 100 meters, whatever unit you want to think, yes, this is high up. One person will think, wow, this is high up. What a great view. The other person who has those components in place, me in the past, would think, this is really high up. My God, what if I fall? Then your heart starts pounding. Oh my God, I feel like I'm losing control. I'm losing my mind. Oh my God. That's why I might create a phobia of heights versus the other person who's like, wow, look at this. This is amazing. So it has nothing to do with the actual situation. So that's just something that we need to get. And I promise I will answer your actual question in just a second, but we have to understand that first. So my personal experience, having a panic attack in very important final round interview for a Fortune 500 company. I think it's normal to have a bit of, right, this is high pressure. I need to do a good job. But there are two ways, just like that heights example, that this situation can be interpreted. There's person A who doesn't have all those unhelpful components in place, who would think, their thoughts, their beliefs going into that situation are, I'm calm under pressure. I'm prepared. I deserve this job. And then when they do feel their heart beating a little fast, because again, I think most people would agree, I'm going to feel a little, this is important. They might interpret that as, I'm going to use that energy to nail this interview and get this job. Then there's the other person. That was me, who has the belief I have to have the most brilliant questions to ask this interviewer, the most brilliant answers. I need to be the smartest person in the world. I have to be perfect. Anything besides perfect, it's It's just bad. It's crap. So then when my heart started beating fast, I'm thinking, what is this? What's going on? Am I dying? Oh my God. Am I having a heart attack? Is it panic? Well, I can't assume it's panic. I might be dying. Well, how embarrassing would it be if I ran out the room right now? I won't get the job. Do I need to go to the hospital? Imagine if I get to the hospital and they say it's a panic attack. Right? So that's how I interpreted it. So then after that, my brain did a really great job of doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is keep me safe and alive. So leaving that interview, by the way, I did get the job. I was always able to hide my panic. You would have no idea, really. Yeah. Maybe I was fidgeting a little bit, but my brain after that was not going to say, oh yeah, no big deal. Let's carry on with the day. My brain was, what the heck was that? Well, we need to figure that out. And it's thinking, all right, we're calm right now, outside of that room, outside of that interview, but we were freaking out in there. The only thing that makes sense is that the interview caused that. I have to keep you safe from that. So then, first of all, in reality, I wasn't afraid of anything that was happening in that room. Just like the person that's high up, heights, they're not afraid. They know if you ask them. I know I'm not going to fall. I get that. But all I can tell you is I'm flipping out right now. I was afraid that the feelings are happening to me. Oh my God, out of control with my emotions, the sensations, my hands are sweating. What's happening? That's what I was afraid of.
But it feels like it. I think, the first panic attack I ever had, it does feel like it's come totally out the blue. And I think that's what a lot of people, certainly me included, struggled with, in that you can be fairly happy, or at least maybe not aware of the nerves that you might be creating, or a few anxious thoughts or a few stressful thoughts, and maybe about a genuine situation in life, like an interview looming that
Yep.
you're sort of thinking about and preparing for.
Yep.
But you're not aware of the sort of underlying anxious thoughts driving up to it. And when that sort of gets to that point of when you can reach the panic state, it does feel like it's come out the blue. But what you've explained before is that it's not the way it happens, right? That's the way that we respond to feeling a bit on the spot, feeling a bit nervous.
Yep.
We can turn that into a panic very easily with the right thinking ingredients.
Yes, and it's horrifying. If you don't know what's going on, it is horrifying. You think you're dying, and you're not going to take a chance. Or maybe I'm not dying, so I won't. I never went to the hospital, but I've heard the stories of people say, I'm a nurse in the ER or whatever. I can't tell you how many people come every week saying I'm dying just to be said, no, you're fine. You're just having a panic attack. So it's
just
scary.
A panic attack, which diminishes it, doesn't it? Because when you're in that moment, it is a very out of control feeling.
Well, think of the title of it. It's an attack.
Yeah.
Just by the title, you are assuming it's something happening to you.
Yeah.
And that is scary. Our brains don't like that. That's very scary.
Yeah. So you had this panic attack in this interview, got the job. What then happened for you? Did you have more panic attacks? Did you start to avoid certain situations?
Okay, so we know the answer to that. So yes.
Well,
okay. So yes. So right then after that, again, because I thought it was the thing, it was the meeting, I felt powerless. I felt like I can't escape all of those feelings. I had to avoid, because I really thought it has to be those feelings, like that I freaked out in there. Therefore, anything that has to do with that kind of situation, you can't escape. You're being judged, threat. We have to avoid it. So then, going into, I remember being in networking groups where everybody, there might be 30 people in it. Everybody's sitting at a big table. Everybody stands up, one at a time. You get your 30 seconds to say who you are, what it is you do. Sitting there like, oh, I'm going to be next. Oh my God. And then of course, because you are freaking out and you think this is happening to you, you're stuttering. You might, you feel like you need to escape. You feel like you need to run. And then if you're fighting that, your stomach might feel gross. It's just, and then as you're doing this and avoiding anytime you feel out of control with your emotions, the way your body feels, you're perpetuating that belief that it is the thing, it is the situation, I can't deal with it, I have to avoid it. So you make it worse. You just make it worse. And if you think about it, that's why not every single thing in the world is scary. There are people, and I've been using this with my clients recently. It's called bibliophobia. There's a phobia for everything. There are people who are afraid of books. They'll tell you, look, I know the book is not going to do anything to me. Like, I get that. All I can tell you is the whole book situation. I flip out. So then you avoid books, avoid this. It's just, yes. And it's just scary. And the only logical thing is I have to avoid because I can't deal with it.
And so how long did you use avoidance or struggle with situations because of the way you felt in them?
I would say, trying to do the math here, probably 15 years. Yeah, 15. I would push through the things that were really important, like those meetings. I did go to them, but because of that, I was dreading it. I hated it. That's like, God, I don't know. That's like somebody being afraid of a spider, but they're, I want to say zookeeper. I don't know what the right word is for the person that would tend to spiders, but that's like them hating them. But every day I have to go to my job and pick up spiders.
Yeah,
It's
so you can
horrifying.
function, you can manage,
Yeah.
but it's hard work, and it's like walking through treacle some days because you're fighting yourself, really. You're fighting your own thoughts and feelings at war inside your head, but on the surface trying to pretend that you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you start thinking, why am I like this? What the heck is wrong with me? Nobody else appears to be like this. That I have to be broken. I've heard these things. Well, chemical imbalance. Maybe it's that. I got to get this. I don't know. I got to try this thing and hypnotism, and maybe that works. And fix this because I have to avoid everything.
Yeah. So you tried things to help yourself, but they were ineffective?
Yes. I tried everything. I think it started with CBT in person, and then I had tried one of the online talk therapy things. I tried antidepressants. I think one of the last things and countless like self-help books.
Yeah.
One of the last things I tried was being hypnotized, and I always laugh about it now and mention it to my clients because thinking back now, it was in this guy's basement. He didn't really look like, I don't know what a hypnotist looks like, but in my mind, he didn't really look like one. In the moment, I didn't care.
No.
It's $300, so you guys, that's, I don't know, 200 and something pounds. But at that point, because it's impacting my life so much, I'm like, dude, take my money. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you kidnap me and keep me in your basement. I'm taking a chance.
Just fix me.
Yeah, exactly. Fix me. This is an external thing that I can't figure out. Just fix me. And so I paid him. It didn't do anything. And then fumbled around for another few years until I kind of had that same mentality coming to Thrive, which was, somebody take my money and fix me. So
what was it then? Obviously you then came to the Thrive program and got over it, but specifically, what did you have to do then in those situations or in your life or in your thinking? What was it that you think made you not panicky anymore?
All right, so that's a great question because I know exactly what the answer is. I'll try to answer it kind of concisely. So once my coach drilled into my head that it's not happening to you, you're creating it. Don't yell at yourself. You don't know how to uncreate it now, but you will. Once I realized those feelings, those emotions, those sensations weren't happening to me, then what I could do was go in situations that have nothing to do with what I actually cared about, which was having panic attacks and really important meetings. I could go do things where I would conjure up those same feelings, those same emotions, those same thoughts, whatever. So I went and I challenged my fear of heights. Before anybody starts thinking, wow, like he must be a bad can I say the word I'm thinking of? He must be whatever. I didn't climb a mountain. I didn't do anything like that. I went to a mall or a shopping center that was just high up, where I remembered years ago having a bit of a panic attack, think, whoa, this is high up. God, I don't like how I'm feeling right now. Oh my God. So I just went there and I just sat there looking out the window that was like 100 feet up or whatever, just reminding myself, and I'm feeling the feelings, heart's beating fast, reminding myself it's not happening to you. If it was really the thing, they wouldn't have even built it like this because people wouldn't go to the mall. It can't be the thing. It can't be the situation. So just reminding myself, it's not happening to you. This is okay. Calming myself down. These are the same feelings as when you're excited to go hang out with your buddies. Your heart's racing a little bit. Your mind's going quick. Oh, I can't wait to ask them this and that. The only difference is then in that moment, you're having thoughts that you don't want to be having. It's, oh my God, people are going to judge me. I look like a crazy person. What if I collapse? Whatever. And I just calmed myself down. That's it. It took about 5 minutes. That's it. And then I was able to enjoy the view. The only reason that worked is because I did it the right way, which is we call processing it internally in a realistic way, reminding myself everything that I just said. Because if I did it the other way, this is just as bad as I thought. Oh my God, it's horrible. This is why I don't do this. Wouldn't have worked. But just reminding myself, this is what you're afraid of. It's not the work meetings. It's not the people in the meetings. It's nothing like that. It's just this feeling. And I just calmed myself down. Therefore, when I go to do the thing that I actually care about, which is not looking out the window in the shopping center, that's not important to me in my life. The meetings, I could remind myself, this, you just did this the other day. This is all you're afraid of. It's not the meeting. It's how you felt. You dealt with that. So my threat level in my brain, it calmed down a little bit. Then the next time it calmed down a bit more. It only took a few times of doing it like that, and then it just went away.
Yeah. So you've gone from feeling very powerless, very out of control, very external, very like it's happening to me and there's nothing I can do to calm myself down or manage how I'm feeling,
Yep.
to actually recognizing, well, there is, this isn't the situation. This is my response to the situation. So let me go in a situation that feels slightly easier. It's not
Yeah.
a 10 out of 10 like your social phobia, maybe, but it might be a 3 out of 10 with heights or a 5 out of 10. Go
Yep.
into that situation, but actually, instead of running away, learn to manage it, learn to mitigate those feelings, take responsibility for the way you're thinking and the way that you're responding to looking out of the window.
Yep.
And when you realized you could do that, you started to feel more powerful.
Exactly. And you
Start to
don't
put more effort into managing how you're thinking and feeling.
exactly. Once you feel a little bit of, wait, I do have a little bit of control in this. You feel a million times better, and then you start to think, well, if I feel like I have this much more control, why can't I have this much more if I do this a few more times? And you said something perfectly, because we don't want people to think, oh my God, I have to go do these like really scary things. And I use that same scale. I tell clients, look, 10 out of 10 full panic attack, all you have to do are like 2s or 3s. Something that you ordinarily, if we weren't working together, you would say, I'm going to avoid that. But ones where you could say, I can do this, I'd rather not, but I know it's going to help me. You feel a little bit of anxiety. That's it. You don't have to do these big, crazy things, because that's just counterproductive and you'll freak yourself out.
We don't even need to go to the shopping mall. Even if you're in your house, you just turn the shower cold for a bit, or walk around the house if it's a bit cold without your slippers on for a change, and just tolerate that you have
Yeah.
cold feet. It doesn't have to be big things, really. Actually, sometimes it's the small things, but done on repeat every day.
Yes.
Because each day then you're reminding yourself, I own this experience. I have the power to choose how I want to feel, how big a deal I want to make this, how much tolerance I have to having
Yep.
a cold shower or cold water on me.
Yep.
Just reminding yourself the whole time that you're in control of that.
Yep. And the thing too is that people will sometimes say to me, like, oh my God, this sounds like a lot of work. Am I going to have time to do this? And I have to tell them, you're already doing this every day. You're just doing it wrong. Just like I did, just like all of our clients do. So it's not, I have to go spend 8 hours a day doing all these crazy challenges and being in public and doing all these weird things. Just like you said, if you're freezing, you can use that to just say, all right, I have the urge go put a bunch of clothes on and warm up. What if I just sat with that feeling and just felt the feelings for, I don't know, a minute? That's all that you're doing. And you
Yeah.
start to realize you didn't always have to act on these urges, these impulses, these things, your brain saying, run in the other room and get a sweatshirt, and you start to feel more powerful, more in control. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. I think brains are great for protecting us from danger, and that's when we want to be protected. But actually, from uncomfortableness, from discomfort, those are the things we want to grow our ability to be in and learn to cope with.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. So you did the shopping mall thing, and then so you very easily said, well, I then just did it in work, right? But what specifically then, what social situations did you go out then and build your tolerance, your belief in your ability to manage in a social situation? Because work would have been one thing. What
Yep.
else did you do?
Oh man. All right. So I did one that's really weird. People tend to get a kick out of this, so I'll mention it. So, and what I tell clients is think of something that would make you feel out of control. And the reason for the quotes is because we now know it's not the situation not making you anything. It's just how you're perceiving it, how you're processing it. Think about those situations that would make you feel judged on the spot. Oh my God, they're going to think I'm crazy. So that's what I went and did. I did do probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on my scale, but that's just because that was comfortable for me. I didn't care. It doesn't matter. What I did was I went to a 4-lane street where I live, and I just stood at the light, the red light, and I just stared at all the cars. I just stared at the people in the cars like this.
Well, so that would have been something that what you wouldn't have gone to that junction, or you would have gone, but you would never have looked at people's faces, or how would you have dealt with that before?
I would have never. So the reason I did that is because my thought was, I'm gonna look like a crazy person. They're gonna think, is this guy homeless? Is he gonna come jump on my car? What is he doing? So I knew I would feel judged and just weird in that situation. So I wanted to bring those feelings on. So no, it's not like that's an important thing in my life where I wish I could do that. You know what I mean? I just knew this is going to be a weird thing that's really going to work.
Yeah.
And so I just stared at everybody. I set a timer on my watch. I wanted to do it for 5 minutes, just an arbitrary number, calming myself down, even if they are judging you. And by the way, the only reason I thought they were judging me is because I was judging myself. If
100%.
if my belief was, oh, I look like a confident, cool looking dude here on the corner, the only thing that makes sense is I have to assume everybody else thinks that. But my thoughts, my beliefs were, you look like a crazy person. Maybe people think you're homeless. I don't know. So I had to assume that's what they thought. So I just stood there for the 5 minutes staring at people in their car. And it worked. I can think about it right now. It's like, that must have been, maybe it was weird. I don't know. But it worked. And I just calmed myself down. Same thing. Even if they are judging you, it's perfectly fine. There was even a point where I was like, you're never going to see these people again. But I caught that. And I was like, no, even if you do see them again,
There you go.
it's fine. You're creating this. There's nothing floating through the air from them through the cars that's making you feel anything.
Yeah.
It's just you projecting your thoughts and beliefs and how you feel onto them. I calmed myself down and I could go do it right now. Actually, I am going to that same exact street today, which is I very rarely go, but I am going there later on today. I'm not going to do it. Well, maybe I will do it. I don't know. That's so funny. Yeah.
You'd do it now and you'd upgrade it. You'd now actually wave and
Yeah.
go through people's windows, shake them by the hand as they stop at
Yep.
traffic lights. No, but the point is, it's not a weird situation at all. I think everybody's got things that they know themselves they would feel a bit uncomfortable in that situation. And actually, it's a really good example of a fairly easy thing you can do that's in your neighborhood
Yep.
that it would be easier not to do it because you might feel uncomfortable. But I like the way that you even caught that, I'm never going to see these people again. That was really just you trying to make it feel easier.
Yeah.
When actually you kind of want to know that you'll cope with the harder stuff. Like, well, even if I do see these, even if somebody did wind down their window and say, hey, what are you doing, crazy person? Do you know what?
Yeah.
I'll cope with that.
Yep.
I'll get myself through that. How I think and how I feel and how I respond to that is up to me. So
Yep.
I'm going to use that power that I have over that experience
Mm-hmm.
and not shy away from that. Actually lean into it.
Yes. And it all comes down to the processing of that experience. If I was doing it thinking, this is just as bad, this is why I don't do this, I do look like a crazy person, it's the worst thing in the world, I feel so out of control, oh my God, never doing this again, it not only would not have helped or done anything for my thriving journey, I would have gotten worse because I would have just confirmed, yeah, that was just as bad. That's exactly why we don't do this. We always made sure we didn't do it in the past. Now we're really going to make sure we never feel that again. So it all comes down to how you're in that moment. You have to be telling yourself the right things.
Yeah. which like you said at the start, if you don't have that knowledge and that understanding, that perspective on things, and you believe it really is the traffic and the people in the cars that are making you feel that way, of course you're not going to ask the question, well, how can I change this experience? How can I calm down?
Right.
But when you've got that understanding that they don't have the power, they don't have like a remote control in their cars that then makes you on some level feel a certain way. People don't have that power over us.
Yep.
Only we do.
Yep.
And so stepping into that power and owning that and taking responsibility for how I feel in front of a load of people in a car.
Yep.
Once you've done that, like you say, a couple of times in the mall, at work, in traffic, you start to think, right, well, that's just now what I do when I feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yep. And I think something really important to remember is that, and this is where the perfectionism, the black and white thinking comes in. You don't have to just love every single situation. When we talk about thriving and coping, it's all about being able to get through situations, really no matter what. So you don't have to, the whole emetophobia thing where clients say, no, I want to love throwing up. You're not going to. The goal is to get to the point where you think about it how everybody else thinks about it. Really don't want it to happen. Pretty gross. Would prefer that it doesn't happen. But if it happens, I can deal with it. So it's not about loving everything. It's just being resilient, being able to, I'd be able to handle that. No big deal. And that just comes from doing things. It doesn't come from, it's not affirmations, telling yourself in the mirror, I can do this, I can do that. You need evidence, or else you're not going to believe yourself,
Yeah. So you going to the mall, you going to the traffic lights, that was you building up evidence that you can do this, you can manage, you can keep yourself calm, you can stand here and tolerate it anyway, even if you feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. And almost every single time, it's never as bad as we thought. We always, oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing in the world. And you do it. That wasn't that bad. And it could still be, yeah, that kind of sucked. But it's never as bad as we think it's going to be. Us telling ourselves it's going to be that bad is just us trying to protect ourselves. Oh, it's going to be horrible, so don't do it.
Yeah. So having done that and put the effort in, when was your last panic attack? Or how quickly after you sort of started doing things differently did you manage to not feel panicky and anxious and out of control?
I don't know when my last panic attack was. It doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen is because I don't have the belief that it's awful. So if I believe it's awful, I'm going to have thoughts about it all day. But because I don't believe that, I don't have the thoughts and it just doesn't happen. And so it really, only a few weeks into the program, that's all it took for me to realize, even if it does happen, I now know it's not outside of you.
Yeah.
Because it is scary. If a lion is about to eat me, that is scary. I think most people would agree that's kind of scary. So once I realized it's not like a lion's out there about to get me, it's not this external thing, I can be okay with those same feelings. I stood in traffic. I did, I went up to that high spot. It only took a few weeks to realize that if that does happen, they're just feelings and I can be okay with it. But because the belief was I'll be okay with it, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So even if you started to feel a bit anxious or panicky, you would straight away sort of be able to remind yourself of and use the skills that you've learned
Yeah,
to not let it go, because panic is like an extreme, out of controlly feeling about something, isn't it? But now you
yeah,
can feel a bit anxious or feel a bit on edge, but actually have the skills to keep yourself calm rather than that escalating
yeah,
further. Mm.
yeah. So I know if I went later on today and I was going to jump out of a plane, I would not be in like a Zen state. Just yeah, like we don't live in fantasy land, but I know I could do that because you're not going to die. You know what these feelings are. It's the same thing as when you were standing in traffic,
Yeah.
or not in traffic, next to traffic,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or high up in the shopping center, in the mall. It's the same thing because I know it's not happening to me. I would be okay with doing that. I have no interest in jumping out of a plane, which is why I'm not going to do that. But I would know I know I'm not going to die. I know I'm fine. I know you're doing this to yourself. And I think a little part of it is perfectly fine because your brain is like, well, like I think it'd be safer to be home and not be doing this. That would help me do my job better, which is to keep you alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's okay to feel a little a little bit of anxiety in a situation like that anyway.
Yeah. 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 Nice, nice. And now you help other people. You impart your knowledge and your skills and help other people to overcome things like this. So, what would be your top tips then, or the key things that somebody, if they're listening right now and they're suffering with panic attacks or bad anxiety, what do they need to know and understand as a first thing of helping them take control back over the way they feel?
So the first thing you absolutely have to get is that it's not happening to you. It's not a thing, it's not an external force that is outside of you that can just come unpredictably. You have to get that. And you might have to give that some thought and kind of sit with that because most people their whole lives, and again, the name of the term attack, it implies it's happening to you. You have to get that it's not. But then you also can't beat yourself up about it. You can't think, well, how dumb am I for doing this to myself? You know, somebody like me, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. How dumb am I? You can't do that. We're all trying to, the avoidance, the catastrophizing, all that kind of stuff. We're doing that with the best intentions. We didn't know any better. So you can't beat yourself up. And then just reminding yourself that how you're feeling, it's the same thing as when you're excited. It really is. You're just, when you're excited, you're having thoughts that you want to be having, pleasant thoughts. I can't wait to get to that concert. This is going to be great. See my buddies, ask them this. Oh my God, my mind is racing. My heart's beating a little fast. You're excited. It's the same thing when you're freaking out. Only those thoughts, you don't want to be having them. What if you die? What if you collapse? What if people judge you? I think just those two things, doing it well, take some practice, especially because when you are kind of panicking, you can't think clearly. I think just doing that will make a massive difference in people's lives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the first one's taking responsibility, isn't it? Realizing this is something that I do have some influence over and I can learn to feel more powerful over how I feel. And the
Yeah,
second one is more around the narrative and the, I guess, coping with the feelings a little bit. And I think our anxious minds with the catastrophic thinking, black and white, we always will go to worst case scenario. You said about dying, am I having a heart attack?
yeah,
Am I collapsing? Am I about to faint? Am I about to be sick? It's always whatever the worst thing our minds can think of in that moment is the thing that we'll fear.
yep,
But like you say, getting a different a different narrative over these feelings and thinking, well, it's just my body's got some energy at the moment, or it makes it
yeah,
feel a little bit more manageable.
yeah. And one thing I want to make sure I say, it's not a tip, but it's extremely important. So when I was in middle school, so I was probably 12 years old, that's really when it wasn't like the panic, but it was like kind of a little bit of obsessive thinking and always asking reassurance and from my mom, stuff like that. That's when I went and got diagnosed all these scary things. He's got panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. So I lived for 24 years with these labels, think I'm broken, I'm screwed up, nobody else is like this. This is why I'm always panicking. You know me, I'm just that guy. I got to know everything. I have to control everything. On paper, yes, I exhibited all the symptoms of those things. In reality, I just did not know how to manage my thinking. That's literally it. So that's my way of saying if you have all these disorders, you just don't know how to manage your thinking. That's all that it is. That's
Yeah.
why, we have 6-year-olds who can do this program and 85-year-old people who can do this program, because it's not, if you let the labels hold you back, you'll be held back. But you don't have to. I did for 24 years. So my intention with saying this is I hope that other people don't go as long as I did and realize you can actually, like, this can happen. You can change this, and you can change it pretty quickly once
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
the right way to do it.
Yeah. And even if you did have a disorder or a thing that you can't change, you can certainly make your experience of what you're facing a little bit easier by managing your thinking about that. So I think even the things that we can't necessarily change,
Yep.
learning to manage your thinking and how you feel, and taking perspective on it is definitely worthwhile.
Definitely. And there's tons of research, and we both know all the research points to, if you can manage your thinking and you're in those situations where you can't really do much about it, it'll be better. It'll be easier. You'll heal faster, whatever it may be. So it's massively, massively powerful. Yep.
Fab. Well, thank you. Great chat.
Of course. Thank you. This has been great.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Lucy. Thank you.